Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Monday, the 17th of August. I'm Angela Lagunzad-Castro.
And I'm Cesca Litton-Kalaw. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters.
Now, first in the news, while weather conditions have improved in some areas, the southwest monsoon or habagat persists. In Bulacan, 29 barangays in Kalumpit remain flooded following recent rains and high tide. Floodwaters have reached up to 5 feet in some areas, prompting dozens of families to seek shelter at an evacuation center. Pag-asa said the habagat will continue to bring rain to several parts of Luzon until August 19. Areas expected to experience continued rainfall include parts of Ilocos, La Union, Benguet, Pangasinan, Central Luzon, Southern Luzon, and Antique. Other parts of Luzon, including Metro Manila, will experience overcast skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms. All right, so let me just give you some numbers, because these are important numbers that we need to discuss as well. There's 1.4 million families that are affected by the string of typhoon, and of course, kasama na nitong habagat. So that's 4.9 million people. That's around 4.2% of our population that were affected. And these are just not numbers. These are people. These are mothers, fathers, children. These are the people who lost. Some of them lost loved ones, some of them lost their livelihood, some of them lost their houses, their properties, etc. So, and then there are also recorded 23 people fatalities due to drowning, electrocution, and landslides, of course. And when we talk about naman the damage on the infrastructure and agriculture, there's about 4.05 billion for both. So that's 3.36 billion for infrastructure and 689.66 million in agriculture. And as of now, there are still 50 areas that are under state of calamity because of what's happening right now. And of course, there are several factors so we need to consider why is this happening. Yung trash, diba, na pinag-uusapan natin na napakadaming basura that people should be disciplined also, diba, in disposing of their trash or their garbage. And of course, by all means, if yung WTE or waste to energy na sinasabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos will solve our problem, by all means, amend the law because we need to amend the law, yung Solid Waste Management Act, diba, to be able to do WTE. And of course, yung flood control projects, diba, yan ang lagi natin sinasabi dito that every time there's rain, it's always a reminder for us, it's the reminder of the, ang tawag dito, yung corruption, diba, na ginagawa ng mga officials natin. Because as of October 20, 2025, diba, there were 400 plus flood control projects that are deemed ghost. And as of now, as of today, ang sinasabi nila 200 plus doon are stalled in areas in Bulacan, stalled flood control projects because most of them are in active investigations ng flood control.
And to add to your numbers, Pag-asa's weather advisory kaninang 5 a.m., we're expecting 50 to 100 millimeters of rain until Wednesday. And in some areas, possibly Thursday pa or Friday this week. And then they were also monitoring 2 LPAs outside of PAR. Pero one entered the PAR na this morning lang. The second LPA, but the one that entered PAR daw has a low chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. The one, yung isa pang minomonitor, may medium chance daw. So, eto na naman tayo. Sunod-sunod siya, di ba? We dealt with Luis, Maymay, the one enter, parang ito yata yung Neneng. So,
it's still gonna be a rainy week.
It's gonna be a rainy week.
Prepared. And but there's a bit of a silver lining. The administration Malacanang reported recently that floodwaters receded more quickly in some areas such as Navotas, Valenzuela, in Manila, in G. Araneta Avenue, and E. Rodriguez, which areas are usually flooded, right? Even Marikina residents reported themselves that floodwaters have subsided quickly this time around. And I guess that's also proof, that if we do these flood control projects, correctly and the right way, we will see the results. We will see the floodwaters receding. But as we've seen in the previous days, there are still several areas that were flooded: Bulacan, Pampanga, La Union. In Hagonoy, Bulacan alone, of course, they experienced flood again, despite having more than 40 flood control projects that were worth 3.52 billion pesos. So their mayor was saying na kahit may mga projects dyan, they didn't feel the effects, right? They didn't feel the relief of these supposed projects, and some of them were even ghost and substandard and incomplete. So sana ayusin na po natin itong flood control projects, especially for 2027, where
budget season.
100 billion pesos was allocated for flood control.
Like, you can't
Mahabang
blame-
usapin yung mga
you can't blame people for being traumatized.
Exactly. So yan ang babantayan natin ang issue na yun na flood control projects. But for the meantime, classes have been suspended in several areas today, August 17, due to the effects of the southwest monsoon or habagat. In the National Capital Region, classes are suspended in Caloocan, Las Piñas, Malabon, Manila, Muntinlupa, Parañaque, Pasay, Pateros, and Valenzuela. In Benguet, class suspensions are in effect in parts of province, including Baguio City and several municipalities. In Pangasinan, class suspensions cover numerous municipalities and cities including Alaminos, Bani, Bayambang, Dagupan City, Lingayen, Manawag, Mangaldan, San Carlos City, and other areas. Now, in Bulacan and Pampanga, classes have also been suspended in several areas, including Kalumpit, Hagonoy, Malolos, Mabalacat, Angeles, Apalit, Guagua, Lubao, San Fernando, and other local government units. Meanwhile, suspensions are also in effect in parts of Tarlac, Zambales, Batangas, and Cavite.
Meanwhile, the Department of the Interior and local government is investigating a reported delay in the 911 response to a medical emergency involving a 71-year-old man in Taguig. The probe follows a viral Facebook post by Basti Ascri, who initially claimed his family struggled to reach 911 while his father needed urgent medical assistance. Basti further claimed that the ambulance that arrived did not have an automated external defibrillator, or AED, and that no medical personnel took over the CPR. However, in a follow-up post on Sunday, August 16, Basti apologized for his earlier statements and clarified that the ambulance that arrived was from the barangay, not the ambulance dispatched by 911. DILG Secretary John Vicrimulya said the matter is being investigated with all seriousness. So first of all, of course, we'd like to send our heartfelt and sincerest condolences to the family of Basti Ascriano. But this is really one of those situations where every second counts, diba? Because life is at stake. Imagine calling 911 and having to wait 10 minutes before someone answers. You're already panicking, right? You're overwhelmed with emotions. You don't know what to do, and yet no one answered. And what Basti also shared in his post is that when someone finally answered, parang may nagtatawanan pa, nagchichikahan sa background. So, of course, that's not the response you expect from 911, right? You expect at least some sort of seriousness and urgency kasi nga
Emergency!
The dad was suffering a heart attack. And eventually, an ambulance arrived from the barangay, not from the national government. And itong ambulance na to, wala pa yung proper equipment. The personnel did not help with CPR. So it raises a lot of questions. Are our responders competent? Trained, right? What is the proper protocol there? What happened to our 911 lines? Because remember, when they launched this, when the government launched this, they promised that cases would be resolved, addressed in as quick as 5 minutes. So ito, 10 minutes nga hindi na masagot eh. So DILG Secretary John Vicrimulya said this will be investigated. Hopefully, they will take quick action. And not because it went viral lang. Diba? Hopefully, ito ay masolusyonan because, again, as we said, lives are at stake, especially when people call 911.
Yeah. So yung timeline kasi, aside from it taking almost 10 minutes for someone to answer, apparently they received the emergency call at 12:15 p.m. And there were 2 follow-up calls at 4:57 and 5:56 p.m. But it wasn't clear if there was already an ambulance there and kung ano yung nangyari dun sa follow-up calls. But for there to be 2 follow-up calls 4 hours later,
it's too late. Ba't naman ang tagal?
for a heart attack, I mean, again, as this is one of the situations na time really is of the essence, hindi biro to. This is why there is an emergency line because of emergencies like this. And if it's not possible to respond in a timely manner, then, there has to be some kind of review. There has to be, you need to analyze where it went wrong.
Yes.
Because someone lost his life. And for the Basti who posted nga yung follow-up, na nag-apologize pa siya, saying, for using inappropriate words in his post. But I feel like as human beings, when our loved one is dying in front of us, I feel like logic and calm fly out the window na eh. That's an expected reaction.
And you can only do so much even if you're trained
Yes.
with emergency response, right? Like Angela here knows how to do CPR, right? And rescue.
I staying
Pero
alive.
kailangan mo pa rin ng
oo.
support.
Di, tsaka ano pa rin, yung iba talaga pag yung family member mo yung
Yes.
nandoon eh. Talagang minsan clouded na yung judgment mo. Pero I remember kasi when I was looking at the post of, what's his name again? Basti, sinabi niya doon while he apologized, pero pinakita pa rin niya yung timeline, no? Doon ang naintindihan ko doon, sinasabi niya, 12:18 yung
Okay.
call niya ended.
Okay.
Diba? 12:18 in the, ano yan eh? in the,
Lunchtime.
lunchtime ba yan? Oo.
PM.
So, 12:18 daw, call ended yung when he called 911. Pero 12:38, he received a call from the ambulance associated with 911 and asking where is the patient.
Okay.
So, tapos 12:43, yung patient arrived at the hospital,
Okay.
no, sa Taguig, which is yung kanyang ambulance was
From the
the barangay. So kasi if you will look at it, sinasabi nila, okay, sige, ito yung call center. When you call, the call center will answer and then they will determine which emergency and then they will dispatch which location. So dapat, so kung sa Taguig to, sa Taguig. So yung Taguig called at 12:38. Ibig sabihin, it took them, 20 minutes to follow up kung nasaan yung patient. Ang sinasabi naman ng Taguig responders, no, sa kanilang kumbaga denial na may mga pagkakamali, ay hindi daw sila nabigyan ng tamang address. They were looking for the correct address and location or landmark of that person, of the emergency, the patient, ano. So parang the only location or address that was given to them by the 911 hotline was the lang daw, parang block and number lang of the address. Walang street. So parang paano daw nila hahanapin yun? Ito yung side ng Tagiga kasi sila dapat ang magre-responde coming from 911. So ngayon dapat talaga imbestigahan ng LGU, DILG kung bakit ganun yung response ng 911. Bakit hindi sila nagbigay ng exact address?
Yeah.
'Di ba? Paano mo lang pupuntahan yung tao, 'di ba, kung walang exact address?
Was there more information on the follow-up calls? Kasi hindi clear yung...
Hindi, yun lang yung sinabi nila. So parang nung when they answered na o tinatanong 12:38 nasaan na kayo, nandito na kami sa ospital.
Okay.
Tapos the father arrived at 12:43. So when they called at 12:38, nasa ospital na sila. Kumbaga parang on the way na sila. So yun yung sinasabi natin na they need to investigate and hold people accountable if there were lapses. And as for our government, kumbaga parang sinasabi natin, it is not enough that we tell people that we have United 911. No? We really need to walk the talk. No, hindi tayo dapat performative lang dito na pag nag-launch natin, wow, we have 911, pero what happens after?
But also maybe training din sa bedside manners, especially if you're in an emergency center, like emergency call center, na this is why people call you. It's an emergency. So nakakabaliw din siguro makarinig na may tumatawa or something.
Yes.
Maybe noise cancellation, something, I don't know. Because
Wag magkwentuhan, oras ng trabaho yun eh.
And also the responsibility of siguro yung kausap nga nung ni Basti, na siya na yung magtanong ano po ba address, landmark, because kung ikaw nagre-report, di mo na maiisip magbigay ng specific details. You just want to report it. So this is a wake-up call. It also actually reminds me of the drowning incident in Aurora. Diba sila, Paterbonia, si Divine Adili. It took some time before nagkaroon ng responders. So,
all right.
big wake-up call.
In sports, Alex Ayala is set for a big test at the Cincinnati Open. The Filipina tennis star faces world number 10 Amanda Anisimova in the third round late Monday night, Manila time. Ayala advanced after Romania's Elena Gabriela Ruse retired in the second set, with Ayala leading 6-1, 3-love. This will be Ayala's first career meeting with Anisimova. The 21-year-old Filipina has already beaten 7 top 10 players this season. Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. A low-pressure area remains east of northern Luzon while the habagat continues to bring rains over parts of Luzon and western Visayas. And joining us now is Pag-asa weather specialist Grace Castañeda. Grace, ano na ba ang latest dito sa LPA?
Yes po, magandang umaga, Pauline. Magandang umaga din po sa inyong mga taga-subaybay. So ngayon po meron tayong low pressure area na minomonitor na sa loob ito ng ating area of responsibility. Last location is 1,040 kilometers east of northern Luzon. So ngayon hindi po natin rule out yung possibility na ito ay maging isang ganap na bagyo. And meron din po tayong other scenario na meron pang isang mabubuong circulation sa west naman ng northern Luzon. So yung other scenario po natin either dito sa dalawa na to, yung possible circulation, and yung LPA na ito yung mabubuo po na bagyo. And then yung isa ay magiging trough na lang ng dominant system. And generally, magiging northwestward po yung pagkilos nito kung may direct effect po ito sa area lamang po ng Batanes. And still, habagat pa din po yung continuous na magdudulot ng mga pag-ulan na hanggang sa malalakas po ng mga pag-ulan for most of Luzon. So ngayon, sa Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Benguet at Zambales, maging sa area din po ng Bataan, possible po hanggang sa malalakas na yung mga pag-ulan na ating mararanasan. While dito sa Metro Manila, Cagayan Valley, Calabarzon, rest of Cordillera, Visibrizon, rest of Central Luzon, Ilocos Norte, Occidental Mindoro, Oriental Mindoro, Marinduque, Romblon, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, Albay at sa bahagi din ng Antique, meron din po tayong periods ng heavy rainfall or any time of the day po ngayon hanggang sa Wednesday, possible po yung mga biglaang buhos ng mga malalakas na pag-ulan. Kaya doble ingat pa rin sa banta ng mga pagbaha at pagguho ng lupa. And expect po natin ang habagat ay magpapatuloy pa rin hanggang sa mga susunod na araw, mostly ngayong week pa din po, and likely mas malalakas po yung mga pagulan na ating mararanasan ngayon hanggang sa Wednesday for most areas of Luzon. At yan po muna ang latest dito sa Weather Forecasting Center ng Pag-asa. Grace Castañeda, magandang umaga po.
Alright, maraming salamat. Para sa update na yan, that was Pag-asa weather specialist Grace Castañeda. Day 16 of Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial resumes today, with the prosecution continuing its case on the alleged misuse of confidential funds. And for the latest, mobile journalist Merimon Reyes is now reporting to us live on the ground. Merimon, what can we expect today?
Pauline, for day 16 of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte, the House Prosecution Panel will be presenting Marivic Pareja, record custodian of the House of Representatives, and also scheduled for this week are the special disbursement officers of both the Office of the Vice President and the Department of Education, Gina Acosta and Edward Fajarda. The prosecution also requested to subpoena Limuel Ortonio.
Merimon? All right, we will check back in with our mobile journalist Merimon Reyes on the impeachment trial later on. But meanwhile, the prosecution believes Vice President Sara Duterte should be covered by the Senate Impeachment Court's sub judice rule over remarks on her impeachment case. And for more updates, let's now bring in our mobile journalist, Amy Atienza. Amy, good morning. What can you tell us?
Yes, Pauline, for the part of the prosecution, like what Merimon mentioned earlier, ay ipapresent na nga ng prosecution panel itong si Marivic Pareja from the Legislative Bureau Department of the House of Representatives. Pero sa ibang usapin naman, we are also waiting for the budget appropriations as way to start no ng Committee on Appropriations ng House of Representatives itong pagsisimula nga at pagtatalakay ng 7.2 trillion pesos na budget for 2027. This is actually 6% higher than the 6.7% budget for 2026 at inaasahan nga natin na magsisimula ito with the 4 agencies under the DBCC. So kabilang dyan ang Department of Budget and Management, ang DepDev, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas para nga mas makita natin kung ano pa yung kinakailangan na budget for 2027. When we had the press conference last week with DBM Secretary Kim Robert De Leon, nasabi na there may be a lower appropriations for these agencies, lalo na dahil ang inaasahan nga din ay continuation ito ng mga programs na implement na from this year, and expecting that the 2027 will be the last budget implementation or the last full budget implementation of the Marcos administration. We're also seeing less appropriations for other programs then, lalo na sa social services. Pero it still remains, Pauline, that the Education Department will still get the highest appropriation for the proposed 2027 budget. And we're still waiting kung ano pa nga ba yung mga schedule na mangyayari pagdating nga dito sa budget deliberations na gagawin mismo ng House of Representatives.
On the part of the lower chamber, Amy, ano ba yung mga transparency initiatives na naiisip ng ating mga kongresista para mapanatiling transparent itong ating national budget?
Well, Pauline, they still will continue yung mga kinakailangan nilang yung ginawa nila last year during the budget deliberations for the 2026 budget. At kabilang nga dyan yung live streaming for the public kung saan lahat ng pagdinig ng House Committee on Appropriations would be live streamed for the public to see. At bukod pa dyan, makakasama din yung ilan nga sa mga miyembro ng civil society at people's organizations scheduled also by the respective committee para nga mas marinig nila yung concerns na gusto sanang i-address ng mga tao. Last year, we have heard that they wanted more budget for the education, for health, at gusto nila talagang tanggalin yung pondo para nga sa flood control projects. Pero inaasahan din natin na for 2027, there would be flood control funds reaching 107 billion pesos. Pero titingnan pa rin natin yan sa magiging pagdinig mismo ng House Committee on Appropriations. The House of Representatives naman ensured that they will have everything transparent, even the subcommittees that would review the amendments for the 2027 proposed budget ay i-make sure daw nila na the public would see it.
Pero one thing's for sure, Amy, wala na yung tinatawag na small committee kung saan pinagmulan nga ng mga irregularidad raw, allegedly, nung mga nakaraang budget.
Yun yung sinasabi Pauline, wala na yung small committee. It was exchanged with the Budget Amendments Review Subcommittee or yung tinatawag nilang BARC, kung saan last year naman naka-livestream din yung amendments na ginagawa ng BARC. Kasama din dito yung ilan sa mga miyembro ng House Committee on Appropriations. Pero one thing is for sure, wala na talaga yung small committee na naging ugat nga din itong mga budget insertions and also the root cause of the flood control scandal, corruption, pagdating doon sa mga napag-usapan din last year.
All right. Well, thank you very much for those updates. That was mobile journalist Amy Atienza. Now, going back to our mobile journalist Marymon Reyes, who is still reporting on day 16 of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Marymon, go ahead.
Pauline, for today, the prosecution panel will be calling or presenting Marivic Pareja, records custodian of the House of Representatives, and also scheduled for this week are the Special Disbursement Officers or SDOs of both the Office of the Vice President, OVP, and the Department of Education, DepEd, Gina Acosta and Edward Fajarda. The prosecution also requested to subpoena Lemuel Ortonio, Assistant Chief of Staff of the VP. Meanwhile, according to Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian, he himself is open to moving the schedule of the impeachment trial from morning, which is what is currently happening, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., moving it to in the afternoon. And ang sinasabi dito ni SP, senators want to expedite the proceedings and para lang matapos ito agad-agad at ma-achieve nila yung one witness per day na target, kailangan daw talaga bigyan ng additional time itong impeachment trial. But then again, to clarify, wala pang final call or decision dito ang impeachment court, and this was just brought up by Majority Leader Senator Mig Zubiri last week, at yun yung isa sa mga abangan natin. Plus this day, Presiding Officer Cesca Litton-Kalaw will also be ruling out if whether the prosecution or the defense committed violations sa rules of court and sa rules ng Senate on impeachment proceedings, particularly yung sub judice rule. Last week kasi ito si Attorney Sheila Season from the defense, ni-raise yung concern na Attorney Virgil Ligutan from the prosecution, yung post daw nito pertaining sa proceeding, yung sinasabing misleading questions, bawal daw. Ito raw ay nakaka-apekto sa merits ng proceeding. So yan yung mga abangan natin for today and this week. Pauline.
Pero tama ba, Marymon, today nakaschedule din na magbigay ng manifestation or ng sagot si Attorney Ligutan tungkol sa kanyang naging Facebook post before the impeachment court?
Correct. Ang nasabi ng korte last week, Attorney Ligutan will be heard first bago magkaroon ng ruling or final ruling ng impeachment court dito. And pwede magkaroon ng apprehending, reprimanding, pagpapaalala sa councils kung sino talaga yung may violation. Kasi ang sabi dito ni Presiding Officer Escudero, naobserbahan niya daw throughout the days na meron daw talagang lumabag dito sa sub-judice rule. Pero hindi niya pa sinasabi if it's the prosecution or someone from the defense. Kaya pwedeng bawi sa pagpapaalala, pero pwede rin ma-cite for contempt, and that will really depend sa magiging desisyon ng impeachment court.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Marymon Reyes. Now, don't go away because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Good morning mga kapatid. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos has ordered a thorough investigation into the ambush targeting Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao Interim Chief Minister Abdul Rauf Makakua and his convoy. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro said Marcos also directed authorities to strengthen security in Bangsamoro communities, identify those behind the attack, and hold them accountable. The ambush happened on Saturday in Maguindanao del Norte, where armed men fired at 3 vehicles in Makakua's convoy. Makakua and his companions were unharmed. Marcos condemned the violence and assured that the incident would not derail the planned BARM parliamentary elections.
And in other news, the Chinese embassy in the Philippines is disputing Defense Secretary Guibot Teodoro's statements on the arrest of 69 Chinese nationals during a raid on a steel plant in Misamis Oriental. The embassy accused Teodoro of distorting facts about the May operation at Philippine Sanjia Steel Corporation in Tagoloan. The embassy also questioned the AFP's role in the operation and the transfer of the detainees to Manila. Teodoro earlier alleged the Chinese nationals were involved in illegal activities, including processing substandard steel and discharging untreated wastewater. Meanwhile, DND Assistant Secretary Arsenio Andolong dismissed the embassy's response, saying it failed to directly address the concerns raised by Teodoro.
Fewer Filipinos consider their families poor in the second quarter of the year. The latest SWS survey shows 49% of respondents rated their families as poor, down from 52% in March. That translates to an estimated 13.6 million poor families from 14.5 million in the previous quarter. Self-rated poverty was highest in Mindanao at 61%, followed by the Visayas at 59%. The share of families who consider themselves food poor also fell to 36% from 42% in March. The survey was conducted from June 20 to 29 among 1,200 respondents.
Now, last week was an eventful one in politics, and this week is shaping up to be just as busy. Day 15 of impeachment trial saw the continuation of prosecution presentations and defense pushback in the impeachment trial with heated debates over the alleged misuse of confidential funds. It resumes this morning with the prosecution set to present more witnesses on the alleged misuse of confidential funds. Meantime, Duterte's camp is seeking oral arguments on its bid to dismiss the 3 grave threats charges against her, arguing the case could have far-reaching consequences for other impeachable officials. And at the House, scrutiny of the Marcos administration's 7.2 trillion peso 2027 national expenditure program begins as lawmakers and groups call for greater transparency and a ban on congressional insertions.
To help us break these down, we're joined by political analyst, the Dalai Llamas himself, Ronald Llamas. Good morning. Thank you for joining us again on Morning Matters.
Good morning. Pauline, Angela, pasensya na. Grabe traffic.
Di ka na naman umabot.
Kaya sa bahay, 30 eh. Hanggang ngayon, nandito pa ako.
Oh, wow.
Well, we
Okay.
appreciate you
Yeah.
joining us via Zoom.
All right. So it's week 7, day 16 of the impeachment trial against the Vice President Sara Duterte. But before we move on to day 16, what do you feel are the most important highlights from the previous week that the prosecution need to build on and that the defense need to focus on also?
Well, this could be the most dramatic in relation to the second article of impeachment, which will be discussed or opened this week, because the disbursing officers themselves will be the witnesses, the ones who allegedly or are supposed to give the funds for use for the whatever intelligence and confidential plan the Vice President may have. So, yan yung drama this week. Kaya, on this article, baka ito yung pinaka-dramatic. Hanggang Wednesday. Actually, last week, sinet na yung predicate for this week. Dahil alam na natin yung mga 6 cases na yun. Tatagal na natin yung dati pa. Alam na natin yung notice of disallowance. Pero ang ginawa last week ay mas diniconstruct yung notice of disallowance. Halimbawa, nalaman natin na humingi pala ng budget. Sumubok palang mag-reimburse yung Office of the Vice President dun sa expenses nila bago nila nakuha yung budget. Which means, hindi nila binasa yung circular, governing the confidential fund. Dalawa, marami silang pinaggamitan na bawal, na hindi pwedeng gamitin. So yun yung nakita natin last week na hindi pa natin alam before. Sinubukan yung kanilang mga defense lawyer senators na butasin yung mga witnesses last week, pero nahirapan sila. Diba, medyo napahiya si Amy Marcos nung ginipil niya yung COA witness regarding dun sa hindi ba dapat responsible dyan yung disbursing officer. Sabi ng COA, hindi. Dahil every step of the way, yan ay may approval ng head of office, ng Vice President. So medyo nadagdagan yung alam natin dito sa confidential fund, especially sa notice of disallowance, at yung mga suspicious names last week.
Well, Sec Ronald, ako naman, do you believe that today also is a crucial test for the impeachment court as they are set to rule for the issue on subjudicial rule at saka proper court decorum? And what happens if, let's say for example, si presiding officer Chief Escudero only decides on prosecution, diba? Against a prosecution, given there are lapses on the side of senator judges, yung splice video ng isang senator judge, and of course yung recent statement ni Vice President Sara Duterte na other legal luminaries would say na it is a direct attack on the impeachment court.
Well, tama ka, Angela. Sabi yung presiding judge nag-implement na yung rules. Yung proper conduct today. Pero duda ako kung isa-sakto yung kahit trabaho naman talaga ng
Oo. Sec Ronald, okay. Let me stop you there. Oo, medyo ano po
Nasa
yung...
tunnel yata siya.
Oo, medyo magulo po yung signal. Sayang naman at alam ko very important yung magiging opinion mo pagdating dito sa issue na ito. But let us try it again. Sec Ronald.
Yeah. Sorry dumaan ako sa underpass eh.
Very good. Okay.
Well, the presiding judge will definitely make his framework for the proper decorum ng prosecution at saka defense. I doubt kung isa-sanction niya yung prosecution sa kanilang conduct. Dahil trabaho naman talaga ng prosecution na maging prosecution, na maging one-sided. Nasa battle sila, nasa gera sila. Ang dapat kontrolin ng presiding judge are the senator judges who are supposed to be neutral. No, yun yung dapat nang bigyan ng proper decorum. Dahil very clear naman, lahat ng tao, some of the senator judges are lawyering for the accused. So baka dun siya kailangan mag-ayos ng proper decorum. No? Dahil yung sa prosecution, trabaho nila yun eh. Trabaho nila to prosecute, trabaho nila na atakihin yung akusado. At dahil nasa gitna sila ng isang gera, no, ay maraming mga marami talagang lapses in decorum, no? Pero ang dapat kontrolin ng presiding judge are the senator judges themselves.
Pero Sir Ronald, what should the public make of the tension between the prosecution and defense dun sa naging back and forth ni Attorney Capuna and ni Attorney Christine Ferrer? Can we expect more of that, yung ganong tensionadong sagutan sa loob ng impeachment court?
Well, siyempre kailangan may limits yung bakbakan dun sa impeachment court. Dapat wala namang lalampas. Halimbawa, yung mga murahan, definitely bawal yan. Pero ganun talaga ang impeachment trial. No, you're in the middle of not only a judicial battle, you're in the middle of a political battle. No? Tapos, syempre gusto mo na yung tao ay manood. Dahil maraming mga tao nung past 3 weeks nagsa-sign off na. So yung mga joke na I will give you a spanking, yung mga statement na magkukuhan pa ako, manonood pa ako ng Odyssey. No? Kaya bilisan na natin yung pag-discuss sa mga kwan. At tingin ko nagkukuhan yan. Positive yan para sa audience. Hindi sila nabobore. No? Hindi sila nabobore. Of course, again, sinasabi ko, kailangan may limits yung bakbakan. Pero wag natin kalimutan, it's a battle. A judicial and a political battle. So yung conduct nila ay batay doon.
Sir Ronald, if I can just build off of Angela's question a while ago, kasi she mentioned it na rin na the prosecution side has also said na if you're going to make a ruling on sub judice and people saying, making statements about the case, dapat din daw sabihan si Vice President Sara Duterte because she's also made statements that may have cast doubts on the integrity of the impeachment court. But with regards to the presiding officer, is that within his jurisdiction? Kaya ba niyang pagsabihan ang Vice President? At dapat ba niyang pagsabihan?
Well, lalabas yan na parang suggestion. No? Suggestion. Yun ang lalabas dyan. Pero very powerful yung suggestion na yon. Dahil papanoorin niya ng mga tao eh. No? So, kung yung akusado ay hindi ginagawa yung proper decorum o yung lalampas doon sa rules ng impeachment court like subjudicial issues, then kahit pwedeng i-ignore ng Vice President yon. The very fact na siya yung impeachment ay nasa impeachment court ay fundamental yon. Kaya yung kung papagalitan siya ng presiding judge, pwede niyang tanggapin yon pero pwede rin niyang hindi tanggapin. No? So, para sa akusado, it is just a suggestion. Kung sakaling maglalabas ng posisyon yung presiding judge.
Well, Sec Ronald, alam ko marami kang mga information na kukuha sa iba't ibang mga paraan, ano? Pero I wanna ask if you if you were able to, kumbaga, na may nakuha ka rin bang impormasyon doon sa sinasabi nilang nagre-request ang opisina or si mismong Vice President Sara Duterte ng meeting with the President himself to talk about resignation and, coexisting, yung tinatawag nila sa law term na modus vivendi. Have you heard about it?
Fake news yun. Fake news yun. No? Too much water under the bridge. Tapos na yun. No? Siguro, nangyari yun mga 2-3 years ago. Pero ngayon, wala na yun. So, yung ganyang balita, fake news na yan. Especially resignation. Pag nag-resign ang Vice President, kakasuhan kagad siya ng mga non-bailable charges.
Yes. Oo.
So, hindi na gagawin yun. Hindi na gagawin yun. No, yung talks para mag-modus vivendi, hindi rin totoo yun. No? Sobrang dami ng kwan ang nangyari para gawin yun.
Pero Sir Ronald, anong basa nyo dito sa posisyon din ng administrasyon? Ano? Because as we know, meron na rin yung grave threats complaint na sinampa ng Justice Department. So is this the Marcos camp sort of throwing na all its cards, ano, talagang lahat na ng bala na pwede niyang ilabas dyan laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte ay ginagawa na niya?
Well, dahil nga ito ay isang existential battle, lahat gagawin na rito eh. Dahil existence mo at existence niya ang nakataya. So, lahat ibabato mo na, even the kitchen sink sa iyong kalaban. No? So, hindi lang sila masyadong concerned kung anong tingin ng mga tao. Mas ang concern nila ay ano ba yung best strategy para madurog yung kanilang kalaban at sila ay mag-survive. Dahil kung na to survival fight na ito eh. Ngayon ako nakakita ng ganitong klase na existential battle in my 48 years in politics.
Well, Sir Ronald, we've heard from the prosecution side once again, no? Si Congressman Ace Barbers, he called out the contradiction on Vice President Sara's statements before, saying na she would face charges in the proper forum, but now she's still refusing to appear before the impeachment court. Again, she's not required, she's represented by her counsel, but what do you think this discussion should be about on whether or not she should appear in front of the impeachment court?
Well, sa calculation nila, it will be a disaster kung haharap si Sara dito sa impeachment court. I doubt kung masasagot niya on her own, itong mga charges na ito. Halimbawa, grave threats. Papalabas lang na ipapalabas yung video eh. No, durog na siya ron eh. No? Itong confidential fund. Uulit-ulitin lang yung notice of disallowance na pinapasoli sa kanya yung pera. Na almost final na yan kahit nagsampa sila sa Supreme Court. No? So, I doubt kung haharap siya. Dahil tingin ko malinaw na kanilang calculation na it will be disastrous for her kung siya ay haharap. Iba pa yung kay Chief Justice Corona. No? Siyempre, Chief Justice ka, kaya mo harapin itong mga charges sa iyo. Pero si Sara, na pinagmamalaki nila nakakuha ng 80 sa bar exams, I doubt kung kakayanin niya legally as well as politically, judicially, no, technically, itong trial na ito kung haharap siya. Although, lagi niyang pinagmamalaki ay magkakaroon ng bloodbath. No? Pero yung pinakamalapit na sa bloodbath dito ay yung kanyang tula na Invictus nung dumalo siya sa press con sa Senate for 11 seconds. So, I doubt kung haharap siya.
Well, Sec, I want to ask you also about budget, budget season na naman. At
Yes.
last week, pinag-usapan na nga yung leadership funds nung 2024 until 2025. So, ang sinasabi nga nila, Filipinos can no longer take lawmakers' promise on transparency at face value. But at this point, ano po ba yung mga dapat tignan, scrutinize sa mga kababayan po natin pagdating sa budget ngayong 2027? Kasi supposedly, sabi nila, there's no lump sum already or wala na yung mga tulad yan, yung mga leadership funds or mga pork barrel.
Mukhang marami pa rin mga allocables dito sa budget na ito. Pero mas yung problema sa budget, yung kabuuan niya. Nag-increase yung budget to 7.2 trillion habang yung ating growth rate ay patuloy na bumababa sa 2.3% at mukhang bababa pa. No? Ikalawa, yung ating peso ay nasa pinakamababang level, no? 60 na yata eh, no? To $1. So, anong problema diyan? Kailangan natin, ibig sabihin, malaki yung deficit. Yung kinikita natin para gastusin dito sa budget ay hindi makahabol. So, yung deficit ay lumalaki, no? Lalo na bagsak yung ating growth rate. So, kailangan natin mangutang ng malaki para bayaran itong deficit. Ang problema, yung value ng ating peso, no, yung pambayad natin diyan ay nasa lowest. Tapos yung pagpapautang ngayon ay mas mahirap dahil sa isang global crisis, dahil sa Iran war. So, ang problema diyan ay yung pagbayad ng utang, ang laki ng bawas niyan sa national budget. Halimbawa, itong national budget na ito, almost $1 trillion yung debt servicing. Tapos yung debt to GDP natin ay one of the highest ngayon. 65-66% to GDP. No? Hindi naman sa pagbubuhat ng bangko. Halimbawa, ng panahon ni Pinoy ay less than 40 yan. No? So maganda yung management ng ating debt noon. Ngayon ay medyo critical, medyo grabe. Kaya parang may contradiction dito sa palaki na national budget, tapos yung paliit na growth rate at palaking deficit. Hindi ko alam kung paano yan babayaran. No? Hindi ko alam kung paano nila i-manage yung debt sa ganyang klaseng sitwasyon. Although, desperate sila eh. Kinakailangan nilang mangutang ng mangutang kung saan mas mataas ang interest rates at kung saan mas mababa yung value ng peso. No? So, parang ang hirap i-manage ng ganyang budget in relation sa mga bagong utang at sa pabagsak ng growth targets ng gobyerno.
Okay, but Sir Ronald, aside from the budget, I also wanted to ask about the 2028 presidential race because last Friday, President Marcos gave a pretty strong statement that was pregnant with meaning. Sabi niya that he would support a candidate that would continue his administration's anti-corruption campaign. So two questions, Sir Ronald. Tingin niyo po ba may kausap na po ang Pangulo or sino kaya ang posible niyang ma-endorso? And second, how potent is the endorsement power of President Bongbong Marcos for 2028?
I'm sure may naiisip na siya. Whether sila ay nasa formal negotiations, I doubt it. Pero meron na siyang naiisip kung sino susuportahin niya. No? Nagsisimula na siya magsuot ng pink na medyas. No? So that person's loss kung sino yung kanyang gusto na anti-corruption icon. No? Pero doon sa ikalawang tanong mo, I doubt kung ganito yung kanyang approval rating, magiging value added yung kanyang endorsement. Kung yan ay tataas, pwede. Pero kung halimbawa, 1% lang yung kanyang net positive approval rating, then kailangan pang pataasin yan. Maganda from his vantage point dahil tumaas by 15% dito sa latest SWS survey. From negative 14 to positive 1. So, napigilan nila yung pagdausdos, yung pagbagsak ng kanyang approval rating. Pero marami pang kailangan gawin para yan ay tumaas, para yung kanyang endorsement power ay tumaas din. No? So, meron kang 2 years. Medyo alaki ng problema sa economy. No? Tapos yung kalaban mo ay malakas pa rin yung approval rating. So, kung gusto mong manalo yung kandidato mo, at this point, ay magdalawang isip ka na endorse siya. Dahil yung endorsement mo may not be a value added. For now. No? Pero kung tataas yung kanyang approval rating, then it can be a value added. Isa pang value added na supporting a candidate ay machinery. No? Yun yung isang hihingin ng kahit sino na i-endorse niya. No? So, yun. Mahalaga ay ano yung kanyang value added doon sa kanyang endorse. At this point, hindi ganun kalaki.
Well, Sir Ronald, there was a recent survey na statistical tie or actually may konting edge yung tandem ni Leni Robredo and Raffy Tulfo. But Mayor Leni has so far expressed no interest in running for a national position. Do you think this tandem is possible?
Yes, I think a tandem of Robredo-Tulfo, not necessarily si Raffy Tulfo, could be Erwin, dahil kahit matalo si Erwin, senador pa rin siya, is possible. Of course, para sa mga Duterte, panic time ito. Dahil statistically tied sila at medyo lamang yung ganun tandem kumpara sa tandem ni Sara at saka ni Amy. Although, ang possible tandem is Sara at saka Robin, not Amy. No? So, di ba panic time sa kanila dahil precisely nga, sabi nyo, hindi pa nga nag-a-announce eh. Ang sabi nga, no eh. Pero mataas pa rin sila. Paano pa pag nagsabi sila na tatakbo sila? Kung sakali, later this year. So, panic time yan para sa mga Duterte na sila yung nag-announce much earlier, pero tayo sila dun sa nagsasabing hindi tatakbo. Medyo disastrous yan kung hindi nila mababago yung kanilang narrative at campaign strategy.
Sec Ronald, I wanna touch up lang doon sa sinabi mo kanina na yung tungkol sa pagsusuot ng pink medyas. No? Are we gonna be expecting an alliance between the Marcoses and the Pinks and the Yellows? Because ano na ang sasabihin ng mga supporters na may ayaw kay Duterte at hindi din naman din gusto si Marcos? And of course, yung sinasabi nila na the Dilaws or the Pinks ran after the banner na never again. Tapos all of a sudden, merong parang joint forces na mangyayari. So, what's your take on that?
I doubt if there's going to be an alliance. Dahil na medyo antagonistic yung base ng pareho. Yung Marcos base at saka yung Pink base. Ang pwedeng gawin ay isa lamang ang kandidato. Not necessarily an alliance or coalition. Ang magiging mangyayari dyan ay wala nang ibang papatakbuhin. Isa na lang. No? Kung hindi may impeach si Sara, tingin ko lahat mag-unite para sa isang kandidato na lang. Whether that will be a formal coalition, I doubt it very much. No? Dahil nga, sabi nyo, it will antagonize both base. So, ang pinaka magiging suporta na nila ay huwag magpatakbo. No? So, ang mangyayari dyan, kung isa lang ang kandidato, then there is an unofficial recognition, unofficial support, no, sa isang kandidato labang kay Sara. But it won't be a formal coalition.
Oo. Lalo pa ngayon, may usapin pa na sinabi ni PBBM na there's no ill-gotten wealth. Of course, that's a different issue. But of course, alam na natin yung kaakibat ng issue na yan. Anyway, so there's no go ahead, Sec.
Yeah, kaya nga, correct yung sinabi mo, Angela. No, it will be a burden on the candidate for now kung magkakaroon ng formal coalition or formal support. It will be informal in the form na walang ibang kandidato. Yun, ako na yun. Pregnant with meaning na yun. Kung walang papatakbuhin ng gobyerno, no? At kahit wala silang openly susuportahan, malinaw yung mensahe.
Ako naman, Sir Ronald, I'm curious about what exactly comes with an endorsement of the administration. Kasi 2 weeks ago sa inyong programa, nagkaroon kayo ng exclusive na pasabog while talking to the presidential son, Congressman Sandro Marcos, where he said na when they were seeking the endorsement of the then administration of the Dutertes, maraming mga hiningi in exchange for that endorsement, right? Yung Senate presidency, House speakership, ganyan. Tingin nyo ba ganun pa rin yung case sa 2028?
Yes, in the real world, marami talagang quid pro quo. No? Maraming mga negotiations. Pero most of the time, most of those negotiations hindi naman na-deliver. Dahil kung lang yan eh. Parang katulad dito, usapan lang natin. Hindi naman yan affidavit na merong na notarized. No? Wala namang ganun dyan eh. So, pag yung nanalo, no, depende kung sino yung nanalo, ay pwede niyang talikuran yung mga negotiations na yon. Dahil hindi naman yun official eh. At ang tingin ko, that isn't lost on the Marcoses. Pero malinaw kasi sa 2028, yung kanilang mortal na kaaway, si Sara Duterte, pag nanalo yan, talagang uubusin sila, dudurugin sila, politically and possibly physically. Kaya they have to choose somebody na hindi gagawin yon. Na hindi silang illusion eh. Na yung mga manenegotiate nila, they will try. They will negotiate for protection, they will negotiate for positions, no? They will negotiate for an alliance after winning. But I doubt kung yung mga negotiations na yan ay kayang i-implement. Katulad nga ng sinabi mismo ni Sandro. Ang daming negotiations, ang daming nilang inuohan, pero sa dulo, wala namang natupad. Kaya nga nangyari itong destruction ng unity. Kaya nga nangyari itong unprecedented existential battle between the Marcoses and the Dutertes. Dahil ang tingin ng mga Duterte, hindi ginawa ng Marcoses yung kanilang mga agreement. Tingin naman ng Marcos, bakit namin gagawin? Ang nakataya na ngayon ay yung aming government. Kung paano kami hahatulan ng bansa. So, yes, magpapatuloy ang mga negotiations na yan. Mangyayari yan. Pero I doubt kung may implement yung mga negotiations na yan.
Well, Sir Ronald, as we head into week 7 of the impeachment trial, no, ang dami kasing nangyayari from the DOJ, the grave threats case. Aside from the ongoing impeachment trial, we're also expecting the ruling on the sub judice rule regarding for both parties, the arguments between the councils. Although I think medyo naging okay na siya because we just saw sa live feed ng Senate na magkausap si Attorney Kapunan and Attorney Ferreira and Attorney Poa. But aside from that, the senator judges quote-unquote lawyering for their sides. What does the public need to focus on the most as we continue watching the impeachment trial?
Well, ngayon, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, lumalabas na yung laman ng narrative. Yung dating mga piatos narratives, nagiging konkreto na lahat ng mga fictitious names. So, ikalawa, yung laman, halimbawa ng Notice of Disallowance, yung laman ng Circular 2015-01, yung mga laman niyaan ay patuloy na lalabas. At nangangalahati pa lang tayo, baka wala pa nga eh. Dahil yung mga susunod na articles ay also very compelling. Bribery at saka unexplained wealth. So dapat tignan ng mga tao yung laman, yung substance nitong mga articles na ito. At yun din yung trabaho ng prosecution. Yun din ang trabaho ng mga abogado na talagang i-deconstruct, talagang tilad-tilarin yung laman nitong mga articles na ito. At at this point, medyo nakakalamang yung prosecution. No? At ang atake ng defense ay hindi masyadong effective. Kung magpapatuloy yung ganyang klaseng strategy nila.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving over to another Senator Judge rather, si Senator Lauren Legarda. What is your take on that? Na pag-alis po nila sa bansa, kasama po yung kanyang anak na si Congressman Leandro de Viste. Do you have any information? Nasaan sila? Go ahead po.
Yeah. Well, ang Europe naman kasi parang isang bansa yan. Pwede ka naman maglabierda yan. Pwede ka naman mag-ikot-ikot eh. Pero for now, nasa France sila. At alam din naman natin kung sino yung nasa France, si Saldico. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na nakakapi sila ron, no? Pero parehas sila na nasa isang lugar, sa Paris. Ikalawa, duda ako kung babalik si Loren. No? Nakita niya na yung pinakamaangas, kinakatakutan sa Senado, aside kay Senator Ping Lacson, si Marcoleta, ay nakulong. Ibig sabihin, kung si Marcoleta ay nakulong, posible na siya rin ay makulong. Lalo na, seryoso yung kaso niya na mismo yung ombudsman ang nagsabi. Lander, no? Na tatlo yung mahalagang elemento para sa ombudsman. yung conflict of interest approval ng franchise, yung non-delivery ng mga promisa ng franchise, at yung pagbenta ng franchise. No? So, medyo seryoso yan. I think Lauren will never risk even a single day in jail. Hindi niya i-risk yun na siya ay nasa loob ng kulungan na may mga rehas. No? Kaya mas mabuti na umalis siya. Yung kanyang sick leave, hindi totoo yun. No? Hindi totoo yun. Kaya nga marami na akong kapustahan kung babalik si Lauren o hindi. Medyo nangolekta na ako ng dalawa.
Sige. Pag-uusapan pa natin yung issue na yan pagbalik natin. But for the meantime, Cesca.
Okay, so one more question before we let you go, Sir Ronald. What about si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano? Kasi ngayon talagang ramdam natin yung absence niya, no? Because for weeks, talagang, di ba, lagi siyang nagmamanifest, nagla-live, pero ngayon, silence. So, what should we make of that? Pati na rin yung allegedly pag-hostage niya nung membership ng mga committee.
Tingin ko ay nararamdaman ni Alan yung kanyang political mortality as never before. Yung mga kaso, hindi naman laban sa kanya, kundi laban dun sa whoever ang nag-facilitate at kumuha ng kickbacks dito sa mga ghost projects sa Taguig na dumadami, mahigit 20 na. No? Yung nabubungkal ng office ni Senator Ping Lacson at yung ombudsman, tingin ko ay naghahanda si Alan Peter sa possible na charges ng plunder laban sa kanya. Kahit hindi pa naman siya directly linked dito sa mga ghost projects na ito, malinaw na para kay Senator Ping Lacson, siya yung facilitate ng insertions, billions of insertions para sa mga project na yan. Kahit hindi naman siya nalilink dun sa illegal na reclamation sa Taguig, hindi naman mangyayari yon nang walang approval ng local government. So, nagsisimulang mag-pile up yung possible cases laban sa kanya. Kaya I'm sure, at the minimum, naghahanda siya dyan. Minimit niya yung kanyang mga abogado, minimit niya yung kanyang mga public relations officer para ayusin yung narrative, no? At sabi nga ni Senator Ping Lacson, ay nagsasend siya ng feelers to negotiate. So, tingin ko magpapatuloy yung medyo pagtigil o pagbawas ng kanyang online selling at yung kanyang attendance dyan sa Senado. Tingin ko magpapatuloy yan dahil sa kalaki ng kanyang mga problema.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much, political analyst Ronald Llamas. We appreciate you still trying to make your way to the studio. Hopefully, next time face-to-face na tayo.
Baka bumalik na ako. Dito pa lang ako sa EDSA show.
Ay, sayang naman.
Okay, salamat.
All right. Thank you, Sir Ronald. Well, it is day 16 of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte, and it is now underway.